everyone. Welcome to the class.
Hello everyone. Hello Professor Yang, Professor Qiu.
Ci poetry is one type of the Chinese ancient poetry. It is also known as musical ci poetry because it can be sung due to the uneven length of the sentences. It is also called long and short verses.
Yes, ci poetry has various names of cadence, which call tunes such as The Moon Over the West River, The River All Right, and Dream Like Song.
Ci poetry was born in the early and prosperous Tang Dynasty. By the late Tang Dynasty and the Five Dynasties, ci poetry have made great achievements. The ci poetry of Song Dynasty, like the poem of Tang Dynasty, plays an important role in the history of Chinese literature.
The ci poetry of the Five Dynasties is a key bridge between the poem of Tang Dynasty and the ci poetry of Song Dynasty. And the key person is Li Yue. Li Yue was the last emperor of the Seventh Tang Dynasty.
Although he was not a great emperor, his place in the history of poetry is remarkable. Li Yue reformed the shortcoming of excessive carving of flowery wool. He grasped the most profound aspect of his feelings of life, with clear and beautiful language, simple description, and high artistic generalization, and expressed his feelings in a moving way, thus giving people a profound artistic feeling. The beautiful Lady Yu is the first ci poetry that can express emotion. 1. Will there be no more autumn moon and springtime flowers? For me, who had so many memorable hours, my attic with last night in the east wind deep starlight remind me fully of the rough moonlit line, carved battle streets, and marble steps must still be there. But those faces cannot be as fair. If you would ask me how many sorrows have increased, that sea, the overbrimming river, flowing east.
This ci poetry depicts a strong longing for the old country and achieves the great artistic effect. He tried his best to integrate the beauty and sadness, the past and the present, the contrast between scenery and human affairs, especially through the strong contrast between the eternity of nature and the vicissitudes of human affairs, to pour out the sorrow and the regret from his heart faintly, forming the last eternal masterpiece. If you would ask me how my sorrow has increased, just see the overbrimming river flowing east.
It is a very appropriate image to use the spring water of a river to compare the sorrow and hate. It fully reflects the strength and depth of the surging emotion. With clear, concise, beautiful, and fresh language, the whole poem highly summarizes and incisively expresses the poet's true feelings by using various rhetorical devices such as metaphor, contrast, and question setting.
There are many famous poets and schools in the ci poetry of Song Dynasty. Later generations often divided into two schools, plaintive ci and bold ci, but in fact, the two styles are not always equal in Song Dynasty.
Yes, since Wen Pinyin in the late Tang Dynasty, ci had formed its own unique tradition in theme and style, so it's called Yanke. The main function of ci is to provide singers singing in melodies. It's a kind of music lyrics. The same meaning describes women's appearance, psychology, and life things, especially the love between men and women.
The rulers of Song Dynasty carried out the policy of giving preferential treatment to the scholar bureaucrats, and with the development of social economy and the high prosperity of the city, which provided abundant material conditions for the scholar bureaucrats to express their feelings, sing, dance, and feast.
In the Northern Song dynasty, the world was almost dominated by plaintive Shi. Of course, the poets were still competing with each other in scene and style. For example, Yan Shu's and Ouyang Xiu's Shi poems reflect the elegant life of scholar bureaucrats, while Liu Yong's poems cater to the taste of the civil class and mainly describe pleasures and geisha.
Yan Shu and Ouyang Xiu were the early leaders of Ci poetry in Northern Song dynasty. Ci poetry of Yan Shu is fresh and impressive. The famous sentence, "Deeply I sigh for the fallen flowers in May, vaguely I seem to know the swallows came again." It's a skillful nature and a sincere expression of the protagonist's mood of cherishing spring, which is praised by the world.
Ouyang Xiu was the leader of the ancient prose movement in the Northern Song dynasty. His poetry style was solemn, but his words were light and bright.
In the early Northern Song dynasty, Xiaolin was the main style of Shi poetry, which did not exceed the plaintive style of Southern Tang and the Five Dynasties, but it was more graceful and elegant than before. It is Liu Yong's great contribution to develop the short and delicate Xiaolin into a slow word with complicated song and white tip.
Liu Yong is the first professional Ci poet in the Northern Song dynasty. His representative work is Bells Ringing in the Rain. It's a typical work of parting, which describes his painful feelings when he was about to leave Dianjin, Kaifeng, and his beloved one.
Zhao Bangyan is known as master of the plaintive Ci school and the founder of the metrical pattern school. Screened by southern curtains is a famous work of chanting lotus. The poet thinks of the lotus in his hometown from the lotus in Dianjing. Wang Guowei said, "This can really get the beauty of lotus."
Li Qingzhao, who was born in the late Northern Song dynasty, is an outstanding female poet. In the history of Chinese literature, in the early stage, her poems express the feelings of girls and young women, which are lingering and euphemistic. In the later stage, her poems integrate the hatred of family and country, and still is sad.
The most famous of her Ci poetry is Slow, Slow Turn. In the last few sentences of the poem, the voice of the tongue and the voice of the teeth overlapped, which was intended to express her depression and disappointments. These sentences are not only easy to read, but also have obvious musical beauty, which fully reflects the characteristics of this music literature. It's an artistic technique that was not widely used in the past.
Comparatively speaking, the rise of both Ci school in much later. In the early Song dynasty, there were occasionally bold and unrestrained Ci words in the poetry circle, but the number was very small, which was not enough to affect the trend of Ci poetry.
By the middle of Northern Song dynasty, Su Se had made great contributions to the reform of Ci poetry. On the one hand, he broke the subject field of Ci poetry. He not only wrote a lot of themes such as lyrical narration, history chanting, and nostalgia, but also swept away the powder and the fragrance in the traditional scene of describing women, thus completing the transformation of Chi poetry from the lyrics of actors and singers to the lyric poetry of rewriting and officialdom.
On the other hand, he added high and majestic factors to the traditional Ci music, which is mainly composed of soft voice and made the language style of Ci bold and elegant. Su Shi's main contribution is the establishment of the bold Ci school. His famous works include Charm of Maiden Singer, Prelude to the Melody of Water, and so on. Now let's enjoy the representative work of the bold style from Su Shi, Charm of Maiden Singer, Memories of the Past at Red Cliff together.
The great river eastward flows, with its waves are gone all those gallant heroes of bygone years. What of the ancient fortress appears? The Red Cliff. Here Zhanru Zhou won his early fame, when the three kingdoms were all in flame. Jagged rocks tore in the air, swirling waves beat on the shore, rolling up 1,000 heaps of snow, to match the hill and the river so fair. How many heroes brave of you? Mid great show, I fancy Zhanru Zhou at the head of his success, with flaming fan in hand, in a safe wood, so brave and bright, laughing and jesting with his blood so fair, while enemy ships were destroyed at flight. Like Saddle Castle in the air, should their souls revisit this life. Sentimental, his wife would laugh to say, younger than they, I have my hair all turned gray. Life is but like a passing dream, a dream to the moon, which once saw them on the screen.
This poem mainly reflects his yearning for the heroic cause and his mental depression of not being able to display his ambition. The former part describes the magnificent scenery of Chibi, which sets up the heroes who burned Chibi during the Three Kingdoms period. The latter part focuses on Zhou Yu's brilliant achievements in war, which is used to set up his lack of achievements in his career.
The first part tends to be focusing on the scenery, the use of words such as that, go through, swashing, beat, and roll up, subtly and uniquely depicts the dangerous situation of ancient battlefield and its magnificent scene, thus rendering the environmental atmosphere for the heroes in the Chibi War.
The second part focuses on writing about people and expresses his feeling of failures in his career through his admiration for Zhou Yu. The purpose of writing Xiao Chao is to set up Zhou Yu's brilliant, high-spirited, and outstanding character's manner. The poet is a broad-minded person. Although the writing is frustrated, the style is still right, which is obviously different from the works of frustrated scholars with the same theme.
After the Jin Kang incident, the social environment that native Ci relied on no longer existed because of the invaders. The painful experience of the country's collapse also made the literati no longer indulge in singing and dancing. The turbulence of the times caused great changes in the atmosphere of Ci poetry between the northern and southern Song dynasties.
Yes, in the northern Song dynasty, Zhang Yungan's Ci style was graceful and restrained, but after he went to the south, his style became generous and sad. The patriotic poets, headed by Xin Qiji, turned the theme of patriotism into main melody of Ci poetry. At that time, they inherited and carried forward the bold style of Shu's Ci poetry and enriched the bold style with two tendencies, impassioned and gloomy.
After Xin Qiji crossed the Yangtze River down south, his resistance to Jin state proposal was not adopted by the imperial court. He was very distressed to let time slip by without accomplishing anything, so he wrote down the famous Ci poetry, Water Dragon Chant. However, his patriotism is not completely negative and pessimistic, such as the Ci poetry. Buddhist dancers written on the wall at Zhaokou, Jiangxi.
Below the gloomy terrace flowed two rivers clear. The tears of refugees were sad when they were here. I gazed afar on land long lost in the northwest. Alas, I see but hill on hill and crest on crest, but blue hills can't stop water flowing. Eastward, the river keeps on going. At dusk, the river grieves me still. The partridges call in the hills.
Although it expresses the poet's depressed mood, the poet still faces everything with a positive attitude and compares the ambition to recover the lost land to the river and water breaking through the obstacles of many green mountains. By comparing Li Bi's famous sentences, just see our brimming river flowing east, we can see that Li's poem is negative and Xin's is positive.
Sometimes he expresses his ambition in a tactful and poetous way. For example, in the Green Jade Cup, he uses symbolism to describe a beautiful woman who does not love prosperity and stands in a cold place, to describe his character of not following the tide. Compare Li Qingzhao's style of Eastern Union and rather follow forward Li behind the window screen. Although Li Qingzhao also showed the feelings of missing his hometown, he was much more depressed than Xin Qiji.
Even though the keynote of Ci poetry of Xin is low and deep, it has profound meaning. For example, in the Song of Picking Mulberry, I would not have it told applies the sentence I have much to say, yet pause as soon as I begin in the Qingzhao's playing flute record on Phoenix Terrace. However, in his point, to say means to leave the bigness of farewell, where in Xin's point, to say means the great event of the resistance to Jin state.
In art, the poets of Xin school took Su Shi's bold style, thus fully realized the separation of primitive style and formed the bold Ci school. From then on, the bold Ci poetry and the primitive Ci poetry were in the same situation, which not only lasted to the end of Song Dynasty, but also was the basic pattern of Ci poetry in Yuan Dynasty, Ming Dynasty, and Qing Dynasty.
To sum up, the theme, content, and artistic style of the Ci poetry of Song Dynasty are colorful, but compared with poetry, the Ci poetry of Song Dynasty has its own unique tradition. It focuses on personal life rather than social reality. In the trend of subject matter, it's better than lyric, but shorter than narrative in the performance function. It tends to be more feminine and gentle rather than masculine and powerful in style.
Exactly. The aesthetic characteristics of euphemism and implicitness in the Zi poetry of Song dynasty are the typical embodiments of Chinese traditional aesthetic thought. Although the Zi poetry of Song dynasty is not as passionate as Western poetry, it has its own special charm of love and low return because it is a deep meditation of the generation of poets.
Today, we just gently lift the veil of the beauty of Songzi poetry. I hope you can choose a poem after class and recite it repeatedly. I believe that you will have a deeper and more beautiful experience. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
See you.